I will start with this quote. Okay, it says that not the fear of death, but the fear of death by public speaking is said to be the greatest fear in the world. Not the fear of death, but specifically the fear of death by public speaking. Now imagine my story where I came from a place where I was timid and shy and convinced that I was supposed to be a one-on-one speaker and not at all one who engages with audiences, with groups, with larger groups of people. I never thought that was me. All right. Now I'm coming from that background to a place where now I found myself winning awards, several awards as a speaker. What changed? My story started from a confident place. Okay, I'm a pharmacist by training. I have spoken for years in different ways, from defending projects to talking to different kinds of communities in church, in different groups. But then there were times when my confidence shook. And as you listen, I hope that you also think about your own journey. Okay, there were times when my confidence shook. I remember, and we'll get to that point, but I remember that we were children, and as children, we always saw the world as beautiful, as our stage, as a place where we could just thrive. There was no fear until one experience or the other hits you and fear begins to set in. So the question is, where does fear come from? I don't know if you recognize this lady in the picture. Can you put a comment in the chat so that I can just see that that's the way we engage in the virtual space, right? So I can just see that you are following, okay? Do you recognize the lady in the chat? You can say yes in the chat. Do you recognize the lady on the screen? All right, this lady is called Julia Roberts. Okay, I don't see any responses. I'm not sure if anyone is listening, but she's called Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts, okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Bianca. I see you, Madam Bianca. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so Julia Roberts is a very well-renowned actress, popular from the 80s when she's been acting in all kinds of roles and is very prominent, very well loved all over the world. But this is somebody who had a problem with public speaking. She used to be so terrified. She had anxiety around public speaking. Why? Because she had a stutter. She used to, what you would call stammering, right? She used to have some kind of stammering. Please, when you join the room, just switch off your, or mute your mics rather. Okay, so she had a problem with anxiety around speaking. She had the fear of public speaking. So when we're looking at her as a case study, we're saying, how would her life have been if she didn't deal with this fear? And again, as a case study referring to ourselves, what would your life be like if you do not deal with this fear? The trouble is we go through this journey once and we don't know the other side, the flip side. If I don't deal with this fear, what will happen to me? So here we are with someone who has become internationally known and well-renowned and has become a major success in her field of endeavor because she dealt with this fear. But had she not, she would still be in that space, cowering in the fear of public speaking, okay? So that's one person. But you say, okay, but I'm not a celebrity. I don't need to be in the public domain. I don't need to speak. But is that really true? Let's take data analysts or graphics designers or people who do behind the scenes work. How would you see yourself if you were to stop, if you were to just keep in your space and not let anyone know that what you do or what your product is or what you're about. If you just kept to yourself, what will happen? Nothing. Nothing will happen for a while. Okay. But if you do well at whatever it is that you're doing, at some point, opportunities are going to come for you to defend what you do, to present what you do, to teach what you do, to equip other people to do what you do. And you're going to need to be able to speak about it, to be able to stand in front of audiences and to be able to communicate. It is at that point that you now realize that, okay, I was behind the scenes all this time, but now I have to be more exposed and I'm ready or I'm not ready, as the case may be, to deal with it. But you need to deal with it now before that time comes. Otherwise, you may find yourself in the position where you are facing an opportunity that can be massive and that can have endless directions or endless to reward you. But then you find yourself limited by the fear of public speaking. So this is how it robs us if we do not do anything about it. All right. So let's get to the heart of the matter. For me, I found these different verses very useful. And you find that whether it is that you're a person of faith or not, if you face these verses and deal with the matter of the heart, because fear is a matter of the heart. It's in your heart. It's something you deal with internally, okay? One is that you should guard your heart, which means protect your heart. Don't just give in to fear and just say, that is who I am, that is how I am. Protect your heart from fear. That is guard your heart. Another one says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So in other words, it all begins in your heart. It all begins in your mind. It all begins inside of you. What do you agree to? What do you refuse? What do you accept? It all begins in there. And what we see outside, the reflection of what goes on inside. Yet another one says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It is from what you have inside that you're able to communicate. If what you have is a lot of fear, that is what you communicate. If what you have is a lot of doubt, that is what you communicate. These little verses that I've dropped are actually very useful in helping people to realign their inner environment to be able to deal with the fear of public speaking. And I will get into how it helped me as well. Okay. But understand that we need to erode and overcome the negative mindsets that hold us down. The difference between you now, if you are dealing with fear of public speaking, and the you that will be very, very effective, a very effective communicator, connecting with people in your space, in the space of whatever it is that you do. The difference is in your mindset. It all begins in the mindset. Is that where it ends? No, but that's where it begins. Okay? All right. So there are different aspects of the mind that limit people when it comes to public speaking. One of them is, of course, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is where a person is feeling like if they're a fraud. They're feeling like they're fake. They're feeling like someone is going to come and catch them because what they're doing is not acceptable. What they're doing is not who they really ought to be. Like they're in somebody else's shoes or they're living somebody else's life and somebody is going to catch them one day. And they're living in some kind of terror and some kind of fear. So that's the imposter syndrome. You also have a low self-esteem where people just feel like they're not good enough. And you keep having that internal sense that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. So I can't. I'm not good enough. Okay. And then you also have self-doubt, where a person just does not believe in who they are. They don't believe that that they don't fall short. They feel like they fall short, like they're inadequate. All right. But
It's fun. Let's get it here. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You gotta shake it. I gotta put my team in.
But by far the most widespread of all these is the fear of public speaking. And so, all right. So let's look at where it all began, because it's important for us to understand, how do we get there? Have you noticed that little children, if you see them in the public space, I'm talking of children ages 1 to 2, you find that they exercise very little restraint when it comes to expressing themselves. They speak up. Mommy, can I have something? And can I have chewing gum? Can I have ice cream? They speak up even if a sermon is being preached, even if they're in some space in a library where they should be whispering. They don't know any of those restraints. They just speak at the top of their voices. That is how we come. So what happens? That's how we come from the Creator, okay? That's how we come when we arrive on planet Earth. But at some point, we say it's the personality, we say it is the type of person that we are. And maybe there's some of that. And that brings about the debate about nature versus nurture. But whatever the case, at some point, something changes between societal norms and societal cultural influences, as well as some of our own personal experiences that make us decide to suppress certain aspects of who we are. All of these things shape us and change our outlook on life. But we need to look at where we come from so that we understand at what point does this thing happen. And in the Confident Speaker Bootcamp, one of the things that we do is that we're going to deal with the mindset and also understanding the awareness, consciousness of where this comes from. In fact, there are checklists and there are workbooks that we use to work on some of these things and to get to the bottom of it. Because when you do that, then you get clarity on why you are dealing with this and stop just accepting it as who you are. Many times it is not who you are. All right, so moving on, we also have evidence. What do I mean by this? One of the things that we also do is look at the evidence. If you say, I don't do well with public speaking, then we want to look at the evidence. Where and where and where have you spoken? What was the outcome that was desired? Did you achieve it? Did you not? And you find that for many of us, we're just afraid because of one bad experience. When we have one bad experience, it blocks our minds from all the good experiences that we've had. And we just believe, wow, this is something that is not for me. All right, so that is another factor. We look at the evidence. Yet another one is the skills. For many of us, we are not effective or we don't do well in a particular space because we haven't learned how. It's as simple as that. If you don't know how to drive, it's probably because you haven't learned how to drive. And if you do learn how to drive, you will now know how to drive. It's the same way. For many of us, we feel afraid of public speaking because when we speak, we actually don't speak well. It's actually a problem that we have. We've recognized it and we are honest with ourselves. That's good. But you don't stop there. You also move on to the fact that, okay, I realize that I have a deficit in this area. I realize that I'm not doing so well in this area. I realize that I need help. And then you get the help. And then you now become good at that thing. You become proficient at what it is that you want to achieve by simply making up your mind and committing to the process. So just like with every other thing that you become skillful at, somebody becomes a very good data analyst, becomes a very good surgeon, becomes a very good farmer or a very good swimmer. It's because they committed to the process. They got to learn how, they got to unlearn some of the things they thought before, and then they got to establish mastery in that area. And they became really good at it by practicing. And before you know what's happening, we say that they are very skilled. But most of us are not born with those things. Okay, so we look at skills, and that's one of the things that we teach in the conference. To experience that as well if you come on board with that. Okay, so at the end of the day, by the time we put all these together, we get the truth. We get a true picture of what is going on, and we're better equipped to advance with public speaking. And most times, because fear is mostly steeped in ignorance, you find that by the time you are aware of what is causing your fear, on what to do about it, you are automatically equipped to deal with that fear and to overcome it, because now you have the knowledge and you're no longer dealing with ignorance. All right. Take a look at this little boy. To just and benefits of reading. I personally read every day and absolutely love the adventure of reading. Oh. Okay. I just took that little excerpt from his video. So you can imagine a little boy, probably about maybe 2 or 3 years old, and he's talking about with such confidence about how he loves reading. I'm thinking, what could he possibly be reading at that age? I don't know, but he is confident enough to speak about it. You think about what it is that you know how to do. What has happened to your confidence? All right. So I have mentioned some of these, so I think we'll just move straight ahead. Okay, looking at your track record, what have you been able to achieve? Look at your statistics, look at how many times have you succeeded versus how many times you've failed. And you find that most times you have succeeded more than you've failed, but the failures are more glaring in your mind, and therefore that's what you've used to define yourself. You also have your memories. Sometimes it's one memory, something happened. I had a client that was very upset about a particular experience when she went on stage and she spoke and nobody applauded and there was no response. And she felt very hurt and very bad because she felt like that meant that she was not good enough and she will never try it again. And again, that brings about the mindset issue, growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, okay? Just because something didn't work out doesn't mean you give up. It means that you may need to try again. Okay, so have you really given yourself a chance? When you say you're afraid of public speaking, have you given yourself a chance? Okay, so this is some of the stuff that we deal with. Of course, the skills. So we've talked about childhood, evidence, and skills, okay? And all those come together to define the actual truth of what your status is with your public speaking experience, and then we're better able to move forward with public speaking. So I told you how I was very timid and shy when it came to public speaking. And now I don't know if there's any way that, if there's anything that would make me feel restrained if I need to speak. Because I know that I know what to do, and I've understood the important aspect, which I'm going to point out now, okay? And this is it. That fear is not something you turn off. It's something you overcome by turning something else on. You don't turn off fear and say, okay, I've shut down my fear, now I'm fine. What you do is you turn on your courage. And when you increase your courage, which is your willingness to do in spite of the fear, that is how you overcome the fear. All right. This is a very important concept to accept, because otherwise you'll be waiting until the fear diminishes so that you can now start speaking. And you don't get there. There are people who you see as natural speakers who have been speaking all your life, who still deal with that fear. But the only thing is that they overcome it by using courage instead. They're not feeding the fear, they are feeding their courage. And there are reasons for doing that, okay? Chief among them is this one at the top here. It's that they focus on the message. If you understand this, it will help you to overcome that fear. You see, most of us are afraid because we're focused on ourselves. how will people perceive me? If I stand up and talk, what if I'm wrong? How would they look at me? What would they say to me? What will it do to my image? What will it do to the way I am perceived? And those are the things that fill our minds and hold us back. But now imagine that you had a message. Today, I came here after a long day. I've had a whole organization's meeting. There was a program that I organized. It was on my neck to make sure everything went well. Okay. It was a competition, a speaking competition, etc. So much pressure. But I finished all that. The reason why I'm here is because it's important for one person, even if it's just one person among you who's listening, that needs to overcome this fear, because there's something that we all need, that that person has been equipped with. That person has been given the ability and the opportunity to deliver to all of us. But because of fear, they're not delivering it. If that person can be liberated by this message, then it's worth being here. So that's a focus on the message and not on myself. Same way, you want to speak about health, about self-care, about whatever it is, okay? The focus is the message. What is it that I need to say, and what will it do for the person who's listening? If you put your focus on you, you will do certain actions. You will either hesitate to speak, or you will cut short what you want to say, or you will say it in a way that's distorted. It will affect the message. But when the focus is on the message and getting it adequately and properly delivered to the owner of the message, who's not you, but the recipient, that changes your dynamic completely. And you now start to think, oh, okay, how can I say this thing in a way that they will understand it? How can I package it in a way that even if they listen halfway, they can listen to it later on and get the point? What can I do to help them? Your focus has changed. It's no longer about you. And this is so profound, because if you get this point, it is in itself and of itself is able to help you to reduce and help me and help anyone to reduce the impact and the hold and the grip of fear when it comes to public speaking. Okay. Also understand that developing courage and self-confidence is like developing any muscle. The more you use it, the better it becomes. Same is true in converse, that the less you use it, the less powerful it is. So you lose power in your public speaking if you speak less and less. But the more you speak, the easier it becomes, the better it becomes, and the more confident you become. So let's shift our perspective and let's reframe our thoughts. It is said that thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. Okay. Now, if you're thinking wrong, then everything else just goes wrong. So if your thoughts are about how you are a failure, how you think people are going to laugh at you, how you think, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, if those are your thoughts, then it will lead to a certain set of results in the long run. So we want to make sure that we fix our thoughts so that we fix our outcomes. All right. Remember also that the audience is not gathering to beat you up. They're not gathering to hurt you. They're not gathering to do you wrong. If people come together to listen to you, and I told myself before this meeting that even if it was 2 people that showed up, it was going to be okay. Because maybe those are the 2 people that need to hear what I have to say this evening. All right. So that is understanding that those people are there to even inspire you. Because had you not been here, I wouldn't be talking. What am I, except if I'm recording it for somebody else to watch later on, you know, but it wouldn't be nearly as good. Now, when I said something and I got responses in the chats, that is inspiring. So the audience is there to inspire you and you to inspire them. So we're all here for one another. And if you think like that, the fear becomes much less. Okay. All right. So I hope that helped someone. Now, here's a bit of what I call mindset juice, just food for your mind. Okay. One, like I've said before, just to highlight, you are a messenger, not the message. I did a YouTube video one time. I was talking about how imagine what it would be like to hire a messenger, someone who's doing your errands. That's what the person is supposed to do in your office. And then every time you call them and say, hey, I have this letter for dispatch, they say, oh, let me go and check my makeup. Let me go and check my dress. Oh, I have the wrong dress. I don't feel like I can go there. I have a problem with this. I have a problem with that. And it's all of that. It happens today. It happens tomorrow. It happens next tomorrow. After a while, you're going to get tired of that person. You're going to say, you know what? I don't need this. I need someone who's efficient in delivering the message. That's the way we need to approach public speaking. Not as a show, something I'm going to go and do so that they will look at me, but rather something I'm going to do so that I can help them. So you're delivering a message to the recipients, okay? And that makes a world of difference. Okay, what's happening here?
Well, Prince, Ayana, I don't want those people to wet Zuzu again. If you cannot protect Zuzu, I will stop you people from going outside.
Thank you. Who was that? Thank you, Zubeda. Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate you. All right. Next is have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Okay. A fixed mindset says, as it was before, as it was in the beginning, is now, and forever will be. That is true for God because he's not growing, he's not changing. But for us, we need to grow and we need to change. We need to become better. So we can't have a fixed mindset where we say, because I failed at this thing yesterday, because I failed at this thing 2 years ago, it means that anytime I try it, I will fail. That's not true. It means there was something I didn't know then that if I know now, I would do well at. And so you seek to grow and you seek to learn and you seek to improve. And it makes a world of difference. Okay. Next is celebrate small victories. If you ask a question in an audience, whereas before you would never have done so, celebrate it. Yay! I had the courage to raise my hand. I asked a question. I'm making progress. Celebrate it. The next time, maybe it will be a comment. Maybe it will be an argument. Before you know what's happening, you have the courage to actually be part of the conversation and then to even be the one leading the conversation. This is how we grow. So, but if you don't permit yourself to even start, then you wouldn't even know how far you can go, right? So I don't know how is very different from I don't know how yet. I got this from one of the resource people at a conference that I attended about a month ago, the Money Making Mouth conference by Joyce Daniels. It was a fantastic idea to just think that one word can change everything. I don't know how versus I don't know how yet. I don't know how yet means I'm giving myself a chance to grow. I don't know how yet, but I can learn versus I don't know how, period. Okay. And then the next point is seek feedback. Now, this for a public speaker is super important. Indeed, at the end of this, I'm going to ask that everybody fills a quick feedback form because it's important to me that I know how you are listening, how you're hearing me. It's not enough that I think that I am delivering the message well. I need to hear from the people who are listening so that I'm sure that they heard me as I hoped they did and that it made the impact as I hoped it did. Because otherwise, I would be thinking I'm doing well and I'm not, which means I wouldn't grow because tomorrow I'll do the same thing. But when I get feedback and I find that, I was talking too fast, maybe next time I would slow down. or I was flailing my hands, then next time I'd be more conscious. You see what I mean? Feedback is very important. But of course, ask for feedback from people who want to build you up, not from people who want to destroy you. Because some people can just give feedback that can just completely damage your self-image or your outlook or your your impression of yourself. It can make you think that you're a horrible person. So you want to have good feedback. And that helps you also to have continuous improvement. Because if you give me feedback today and I improve, and then I do that tomorrow and I get feedback again and I improve, then that keeps being my trajectory. And over time, I improve much more. The same applies to you and to anyone who wants to get better with public speaking. One of the things that happens with a public speaker is a lot of mind games. You're talking about a theme, and maybe you're even dealing with issues around that theme. Take, for example, as a marriage coach, I talk about marriage. Now, what happens if I'm about to talk about marriage and 30 minutes earlier, I have an argument with my husband? I need to remind myself, I need to put my mind in the space. I'm not saying this is happening, I'm just saying it's a good example because you can have mind games where it's like, who are you to be talking about something like this? You don't deserve to. After all, this is happening in your personal space. Or you're talking about money, finances, and right now you're broke. But you know that this process that you're teaching is something that has worked for you in the past and something that you're working on and that will work for you in future. But right now, at this particular point in time, you're struggling. Mind games start to happen. Are you even deserving of talking about this kind of topic? You are so broke and you want to teach people how to make money. Are you out of your mind? You need to be able sometimes to use affirmations to cancel out every negativity in your mind. Why? Because remember what we said, thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. So if you don't deal with it at the thought level, then it will affect you. So I remind myself that I'm okay. In Nigeria, we say nothing to you, okay? Remind yourself that you're okay. You've got this. I understand this material and the concepts, and I deliver them clearly and effectively. When you say that to yourself, you're giving yourself a confidence boost, and it really helps. I'm an engaging speaker, and I connect well with my audience. This is important in the virtual space where you are not even seeing the people. Most people would prefer to put off their devices, put off their video. So they're hearing you, but you're not seeing them. For all you know, they could be scowling at you. For all you know, they could be laughing at you. But no, you choose to say the things that empower you to deliver the message, because remember, it's not about you, it's about the message, and it's about the impact that the message will make. And of course, that's why we say my message is well received. It's effective and it's memorable. At the end of the day, that when you guys leave this place, when the listeners, everyone has left this space, that they're able to remember something that empowers them to continue on their journey. Better still, if they don't remember the speaker, but they remember the content and they're able to run with it. You've delivered your message well, okay? So a few things that can help, and this is especially because most fear, remember, is rooted in ignorance. If you prepare thoroughly, if you prepare for your presentation, you prepare to deliver it well, you organize your thoughts in a way that is sequential and that helps people to understand you and helps you to understand what you're doing, you find that it is much less scary. When you're disorganized and you know you have a topic you want to discuss, but you haven't really planned, you haven't really prepared, it's scary. So that's part of what feeds our fear, lack of proper preparation. Okay, and all of these are things that we still discuss in the Confident Speaker Boot Camp. All right, so a few simple action steps, and then we'll go into any question and answer. So right now, if there are questions that have come up on your mind, you may want to start dropping them now in the chat, okay, while we proceed with this slide. One is practice regularly. We've said that before, I'm reiterating it. Practice regularly. You can start by standing in front of your mirror, recording on your phone. What that does is helps you with feedback. Remember, we said feedback is very important. My form that I'm dropping shortly is also a feedback form that us to know, help me to know if what I have done was well received. In the same way, if you stand in front of the mirror, you only hear what you're saying in the moment. But when you replay it on your device, your phone, your tape recorder, you hear yourself. What you think you're saying sometimes is not what you're actually saying. So you practice and get feedback. The feedback that you get from your recording device is good because it helps you to hear yourself like the audience will hear you. But it's still not as good as getting feedback from other people. The reason is if you already have convinced yourself that you're really, really good, even if you're hearing something that doesn't sound very good, unless you enter critical mode, you may still be hearing yourself and thinking, oh, I'm doing pretty good. I love it. I love it. And you're not hearing the things that you should hear so that you can make progress and you can make corrections. Okay. So the other option too is to listen to feedback from a small audience, maybe friends, family, even your children, your family members, in your home can help you with feedback. So you're preparing to deliver a speech or to deliver a presentation, do it at home, do it with other people. Let them hear you from the perspective of the audience and let them give you honest feedback and be willing to take it. Don't resist feedback. Don't treat it like something to despise or something that means that somebody doesn't appreciate you. No, if they give you honest feedback and say there's something you need to fix here, they're probably trying to help you. Okay, so that is a very important thing that we can learn to do. And then, of course, seek opportunities to speak. You enter an audio room, you are struggling with the fear of public speaking, speak anyway. Raise your hand, make a comment, speak. Or rather, we don't do audio rooms anymore. On LinkedIn, we do lives. Or on Instagram, you can join a live and speak up. On TikTok, wherever it is, in your home area, you attend a conference, you attend a program, in your church, speak up. What it does is it convinces you that you can do this. And it also exposes you to the larger public, even if it means that you're getting feedback that is constructive, that says, you could have said this differently. That's progress. But if you sit in your comfort zone and don't say anything, then what you knew last year is what you still know this year, is what you know next year. You're not making progress. And so that's the best way, is to keep speaking. Some of the things that you can use to help yourself to overcome the fear. This fear now, when I'm saying these relaxation techniques, I'm talking about the fear that comes maybe just before you go on stage. So even if you have a prepared speech situation where you already knew beforehand, 2 weeks before, 3 months before, that on such and such a date, you are going to give a speech, but you have trepidation that comes, fear, panic that comes just before the event. Many times it is as a result of anxiety, as a result of wondering, what if something goes wrong? All the thoughts, the battlefield of the mind, your mind starts to play tricks on you. At this point, sometimes all you need to do is just breathe, slow down, step away, take a few deep breaths. And there are ways, again, that we teach for how to breathe that make you calm down almost immediately and calm your nerves, okay? And then there's also visualization, which means that at the end of the day, by the time we're done, what do I want to see? You start to visualize it. You start to form those pictures in your mind so that you're already engaging the image of what you want to see before you start. And so you know that that's where you're headed. It kind of gives you direction that at the end of the day, this is where I'm headed. This is the image I want to see. And it makes a world of difference because now you don't feel lost and chaotic, like, how is this going to end up? But you're quite clear on where you're going, and it makes a world of difference. Then also, you want to gain experience gradually. Okay, so like we've said, start small, start with smaller audiences. Maybe you're comfortable talking to children. Maybe you're in a church setting and you want to volunteer in the children's church. Children are very much more accepting, much less critical, easier to get along with. You can start there. Start there, teaching them, if it's Bible lessons, if it's whatever it is that you teach children, character development, etc. Okay, you start there. What that does is it gives you an opportunity to start to build confidence. So I've dropped the feedback link in the chat, but that helps you to build confidence. And then you can join groups, participate in groups. There are groups that help with speaking. So for those of us that are going to go through the confident speaker boot camp coming up in March, you would find that 4 weeks go by quite fast. In 4 weeks, we'll be packing a lot. I've learned over the past 3 years, I've learned so much. I've used so much of it. The difference between where I was and now is like night and day. And I'm packing much of it into this 4-week course. So it's going to be pretty intense, but it's also going to be very life transforming. And so my hope is that when those people finish, that they don't just stop there and go on with their merry lives, but that they also find ways to sustain the momentum, because there's nothing, or to sustain the tempo. There's nothing better than an environment that helps you to continue to improve versus you thinking you're doing okay. You do it by yourself, you score the goal, you play referee, you are the goalkeeper, everything, it's just you. When you get feedback, then you're better able to grow. And that's something that I've found very useful. All right, so at this point, we are done. Those who are ready to get started with speaking, you don't want to just hear a nice webinar and it's good. Now I understand what you're saying and it's all nice, it's all well and good. Those people, I'm happy for you, but I'm looking for the people who want to get started with their public speaking journey. Those people who want to improve their public speaking. They want to improve their speaking experience. Get on board with this Confident Speaker Bootcamp. It's starting on the 1st of March. And in that space, we're going to be dealing with everything from the mindset, like I mentioned, okay, the mindset, the awareness, the overcoming of the fears, also with the skill set. There's a skill set for public speaking, both for prepared speaking, which is the ones that you know beforehand and you're scheduled for. And then the impromptu ones, those are the ones that scare everybody, even the most seasoned speakers, if you don't know how to handle them. So we're going to also be teaching you how to handle speaking on the spot. What do you do? How do you manage it? If somebody just asks you a question now, you didn't know beforehand it was coming, or they call you up stage to please come and stand in for your boss. You did not see it coming, you didn't prepare. How do you handle those kinds of situations? It's also a skill, and there's a way to do it. Okay, so those are some of the things we're going to be dealing with in the Confident Speaker Bootcamp. But it's a boot camp because we're also going to push you into the waters. What that means is you're not going to just be taking notes and recording things and keeping them in your house and hoping to use them one day by and by. No, we're going to make sure that you start using them during the boot camp. And there are ways in which we're going to do that. Okay, one of them, of course, is very easy: social media. We're going to make sure that we start the process, and that will have two benefits. One is boosting your confidence, but two also is exposing you to the people who need to hear your message so that you can start your public speaking journey and start it well, and also have references in the public speaking space. You can say, check out my YouTube page. You can say, check out my LinkedIn lives. You can say, check this out, check out my Instagrams, my Instagram reels, and they can see what you have been talking about. So these are the things that we're going to do in the Confident Speaker Bootcamp. Now, I'm so grateful. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined this training. Yeah, some of the techniques for somebody just asked, Kingsley. What are some techniques for handling a disengaged or distracted audience? Okay, Kingsley, are you talking about in the virtual space or in physical, like face-to-face? Do you want to unmute? Let me see. I think I can enable unmuting now.
Okay, I think in both cases, both virtual and on a face-to-face basis. So I just want to understand, the technique you can adopt, because there are some things that are just out of your control. It's one thing to overcome your fear by speaking out there. It's another thing to control your audience or make them behave a certain way. So I want to understand the technique there is to, go about it that way.
Yeah. So that again is part of what is going to come up in the boot camp. But just to say that for most times there with an audience, there's what is called audience engagement. Okay. Take, for example, when we came in here, I asked people to write their names, and then I asked people to answer a few questions. Okay. So I asked a question, and you see some yeses and no. All that is in the virtual space is helping people to communicate with you. Sometimes it could be in the virtual space, would you drop a 1 if you agree with this and a 2 if you don't agree with that? What that does is it makes the people now have to get involved with the conversation. Truth be told, in the virtual space, people can very well log on and go about their merry way and be doing something else and not even be near their device. There's little you can do about that. But the people who are there in that space, you want them to be able to connect. And so it's when you're asking those kinds of questions that they will be able to respond. In the face-to-face, where you're dealing with a face-to-face audience situation, usually you want to first of all start with something that grips their attention, because it just takes a few seconds to lose, especially adults, to lose their attention completely, just a few seconds. So if you start with a dragging introduction or an uncertain, unsure footing, it usually just means that they've already gone, they're already calculating other things and just thinking of how to get out of there. So you want to make sure that your beginning is strong. You also want to make sure that you do things in the middle of it that help get them back on track. Okay, and there are some of those things that we'll teach in the Confident Speakers Bootcamp as well. So those are some of the things that help. It's making sure that they are involved, that it's not just you talking at them, but that they are feeling like part of what's going on. And of course, there are different ways to do that. Again, different methods would be applied to different kinds of audiences. If you have a serious audience, you won't be using jokes, for example, or using funny stories, because that would not be appropriate to that kind of audience. So again, the type of audience would determine the strategy that you use. Okay, let's see a comment. Sometimes I would want to talk about a particular topic and end up digressing along the line. How can I manage this? Okay, so our questions are interesting, but they're not really about the particular topic, but it's okay. So you digress along the line. many times what happens, so remember we talked about two types of speaking. There's the prepared one. Usually with the prepared one, you have like an outline, you have a sequence, the things that you want to say, and there are bullet points. I usually don't recommend people cramming or memorizing entire speeches or entire presentations, because what that means is that if you forget a line, it will destabilize you and you find it difficult to retrace your steps. But I usually recommend that you have some kind of outline, that you know that at the end of the day, I have these 5 points that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about them in this sequence. So if you know the outline and you know the sequence, then that really helps you with your delivery. For an impromptu response, sometimes it's a bit more tricky. So ideally, you want to know where you're going. And then the rest of it would be how to get there. Okay, so you want to have a clear, at the end of the day, what am I trying to achieve with this response? Something like that, that helps. But of course, there are many other things that you do with impromptu speaking, but I hope that helps with that question. Next, we have, how about the best way to handle tough or confrontation? Okay, you guys are all asking questions. Okay, still Kingsley. You're asking questions that are really from the boot camp. How about the best way to handle tough or confrontational questions without losing your composure? Okay, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, James. Thank you. Tough or confrontational questions without losing your composure. There are different ways, many different ways, but I think I'll just give you the easiest one or the quickest one. You douse tension if you repeat the question. If you repeat the question, it buys you time to calm your nerves. It also buys you time to process what has been said, and maybe even to rephrase what has been said. So if somebody says something that sounds harsh and toxic and like an attack, you could rephrase it. Or you could say, that sounds to me like you're saying, and then you rephrase it in a different way, so that it just gives a different perspective to that same thing, and it makes a difference to how the rest of the audience who is listening to this exchange, as well as how even the person that is attacking you, if they're attacking you, will perceive it, because now you've rearranged it and brought a different angle to it. So that's something that can help in that situation. Thank you. I'm loving the questions. And okay, I wanted this to be under 1 hour, and looks like we did it. So except if there's any other question, I would say that today, because we have, how many people are here? 18 participants. The Confident Speaker Bootcamp that is starting in, I needed the answer to this question. Okay, so I hope the answer helped. Okay. Okay, so it's starting on the 1st of March. What I decided with the team was that today, for 3 hours, starting at 7 o'clock, so that means from now till 10 p.m. West African time, the Confident Speaker Bootcamp would be available at a discounted price. So if you log in now, you would get it at Nigerian 20,000 Naira, US $20. But after 10 p.m. tonight, it goes back to normal price. So those who are interested in joining the bootcamp, this is a chance to get it at a discounted price. I will just drop the link as well, so that anyone who wants to quickly enroll and take advantage of the discount can go ahead and do so right away. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay. Okay. There we go. So there's the link. If you log on now to get into the program, you will get it at 20,000 Naira. And I think that's a pretty nice discount. Any other questions? Okay, there's a question. Is the Confidence Speaker Bootcamp a one-off, or will it run like a cohort? Yeah, this is cohort 1. It will run like a cohort. Oh yeah, there was something I was going to show you. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was just going to share a bit. So even though this is cohort 1 for the Confidence Speaker Bootcamp, it's been like repackaged. Previously, what we were doing, it's not really the first cohort. What we were doing was it was strictly for women. It was, so it was the Better Women Public Speaking course. And the women did quite well, but a few men started getting a bit upset that, what is it? Why is it only women? And so, okay, no, it's not on this side. Okay. So we had a good number of people who now started asking that, well, what is this bias? Why is it only women? Is it that men don't need to improve their own public speaking skills? I said, okay, sorry, don't be angry. I was trying to, stick with my gender and my tribe, but apparently that was not very palatable. So we decided to rebrand it. So it's cohort 1 because it's been rebranded in this way, but we've had previous cohorts. Yeah. All right. So thank you for that question. That was Austin. Thank you, Austin. Okay. Lawal asks, okay, if we don't meet up this one, when will the next be? Okay, so the plan right now is to have a 1-week break in between cohorts, which means that I expect that the next one tentatively should be like second week of April. Yeah, should be about second week of April, probably around the 8th or so of April. We should have the second one. But this first set gets to be the pioneers, and of course, you know how it works. I will take much more time with them. Right now, one of the advantages too is that we have a number of people who are saying that they want one-on-one coaching. And with the one-on-one coaching, that requires, of course, more time and more focus. So the more we start getting those one-on-one coaching people, the more generic the cohorts will be in terms of attention. Of course, we'll still try and make sure that it's as impactful as possible, but in terms of how much one-on-one involvement, the cohort 1 people will probably enjoy the most of that, because going forward, the more we have one-on-one coaching, the more we'll have to, reduce that. At the end of the day, you have 24 hours in a day, right? So that's how it works. If we don't need help, this one, okay, that was Lowell. That was the last question. Thank you, Lowell, for your question. Okay. So in the absence of anything else, you may want to copy, please. I hope that we've copied the feedback form. It's very important to me to get feedback so that we're sure that we're on track, and that if there are things that we need to improve or things we need to correct, that we get that feedback from you. I think another comment just came in. Okay. All right. So please copy the 2 links if you haven't yet attended to them. The link for the feedback form and the link for the Confident Speaker Bootcamp. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. I think we did pretty well with time. I really appreciate you. And in the absence of anything else, do have yourselves a lovely day.